Praise be Jesus and Mary. G.K. Chesterton, one of the great English writers, once wrote, "The world suffers not for lack of wonders, but for lack of wonder." It's such a simple line, but yet very profound. The world suffers not for lack of wonders, but for lack of wonder. The blessings of God, God's graces, will never lack in our lives, but we often miss them because of our lack of gratitude. In today's gospel, we hear of what the fathers call one of the mirabilia Dei, one of the wonders of God. And in fact, this miracle, the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000, is the only miracle of our Lord that is reported in all of the four Gospels. So it's a very important one. In the Gospel of Luke, he actually tells us that this miracle takes place in a deserted place. So in Greek, it's eremos, which calls to mind the desert, the wilderness. So the very setting itself recalls to the reader one of the great wonders of God that took place in the Old Testament. We know in the book of Exodus, God fed his people, the 12 tribes of Israel, with the miracle of manna, right? The bread from heaven. So this is a great typology, as the fathers would call it, in today's gospel. He is the prophet. This is what the people said, right? This is truly the prophet, the one who is to come into the world. The prophet. He is the new Moses. So this whole miracle calls to mind that miracle, that wonder, the great wonder of God in the Old Testament. If you go back in the book of Exodus, when God reveals himself to Moses, he says, "I am who am." And then when he sends him to the evil Pharaoh, Moses, scared, told God, "But who am I supposed to, who am I? Send someone else." And God said this, "I am with you." The presence of God will then take his people out of the land of Egypt, the place of slavery. When God reveals himself, he talks the talk, but then with his presence, he guides his people. He walks the walk. And we know that in the fullness of time, God will tabernacle with his people. He will tabernacle with his people. This is what the incarnation is. In the Gospel of John, it says, God tabernacled with his people. In the womb of the Blessed Virgin, he takes flesh and he dwells with his people. This is the great delight and the mystery of our faith. The great wonder of wonders is the mystery of faith, the most holy Eucharist. The most holy Eucharist. In the sacrament, the Blessed Sacrament, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ is truly, really, substantially present. How do we know this? Do you want the simple answer? It's this: because Jesus said so. Jesus is God, and God does not deceive, nor can be deceived. And he said so. The wonder of God. But as we know, many Catholics don't even believe in this mystery of faith. What a tragedy. The source and summit of our life, Christian life. 70%, I believe, is a percentage. That is a lot. That is too many. That is too many. What is the problem? The problem is sin. Sin. What sin does is it darkens the mind. It weakens the will. And we can no longer, there's a certain point where the perception of the mysteries of God are so dim that it leads the soul to disbelief. If you go back to Fatima, Our Lady of Fatima, just think of that apparition of the angel of Portugal that gave Holy Communion to the 3 children of Fatima. This is extraordinary. But the Blessed Sacrament is, so to speak, ordinary because it's offered to all of us. Where do you think that angel, the angel of Portugal, got the Blessed Sacrament? From one of the tabernacles within that area, because angels cannot consecrate. So they necessarily have to get from a tabernacle in the world. Because our faith tells us that only a validly ordained priest in persona Christi can consecrate the bread and wine in consecration, affect the transubstantiation of that bread and wine into the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. And this requires faith. If sin dims, if it weakens our souls, faith and grace intensify our perception of the mysteries of God. This is what the theological virtue of faith does. It enlightens our minds to co-naturally perceive the mysteries of God. It's always surprising for me, not very surprising, but it confirms the fact that the faith enlightens the mind when I see children so pious before the Blessed Sacrament. I remember a couple years ago going to St. Joseph's Chapel, and there was this little girl who was lighting all of the candles, all of them. And I walk in and I say, "What in the world are you doing?" And she said, "For Jesus." What am I supposed to say to that? I'm trying to hold back my tears and say, "Next time, ask your mom first." But I was so edified. This little girl, full of faith, co-naturally perceived the mystery of God and the Blessed Sacrament. How often, our Lord is so displeased with our lack of faith. Think of the great apparition to St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, when our Lord tells her that when he shows her his heart, he says, "Behold this heart, which has given everything to man. And in return, it receives nothing but ingratitude, indifference, blasphemy, sacrilegious. But at least you," he tells her, "at least you make reparation to my sacred heart." Brothers and sisters, there's so many Catholics, even Catholics, don't believe in the Blessed Sacrament. Let us never take this for granted. Never take this for granted. We need to prepare ourselves well to receive our Lord in Holy Communion. Go to confession frequently so you can receive Him worthily. Our Lord wants to tabernacle. He delights in dwelling in our souls. Let us receive Him with faith, with hope, and with love. Let me end by recalling the great doctor of the church, St. Thomas of Aquinas. St. Thomas had a great devotion to the Blessed Sacrament. He wrote a very beautiful Eucharistic hymn. He is one of the greatest theologians and doctors of the church who wrote lofty theological treatises. There was a certain point at the end of his life, near the end of his life, where our Lord appeared to him. And then he stopped writing his masterpiece, the Summa Theologiae, right? One of the brothers asked him, why don't you finish your Summa Theologiae? Then he said, in comparison to what I saw, everything that I have written is nothing but straw. It's nothing but straw. What God has prepared for those who love Him, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, nor can we even imagine what He has prepared for those who love Him. But He does give us a taste of this here on earth in the Blessed Sacrament. Let us never take this for granted. We have so many problems. But for those who love God, in 100 years, all these problems will be nothing but straw. Praise be Jesus and Mary.